Everybody, welcome back to Global Conflict TCG. This is going to be devlog number 3. So let's keep working on the startup manager. If you watched the previous 2 videos, welcome along. Going to be the 3rd video where we're working on Global Conflict TCG Online inside of Unity. So the first couple of devlogs, we've really spent the entire time just building up this startup manager to handle the start game process for Global Conflict. Similar to Pokemon TCG, after you do the coin flip, you're going to draw your 7 cards. You're going to check your hand for basic units. In this case, or basic Pokemon if you're playing Pokemon. And then from there, you're going to proceed. So that is what this flow is doing so far. It's just going to draw 7 cards, and then it's going to check for basics. So if we click play, you'll see what I'm talking about. Just do a quick rehash. So you could see it's going to draw 7 cards, and then boom, it found a basic. This one here has a bull saying that it's a basic unit. All right, so we know it works. Everything was good. So let's continue. So the next step in the process is there's a few things we got to do. We have to allow for the player to put a unit in their active spot. So that's one thing we got to do. We also have to move 6 cards from our deck to the prize cards. So I think that's what we're going to do today is we're going to move prize cards. And I think we may also work on a state too that is going to check for mulligans. So we'll probably do that too. So let's go ahead and continue on. The active unit or the active spots and the bench spots, we'll work on those probably in another devlog video. So this one here, we're just going to continue on and add some more stuff. So here we go, state number 8. So this is a blank state. So you can see here from this state here, check is basic unit variable. If it's true, it's going to say finished, and it's going to go to state number 8. So this means we have a basic unit in our hand. So the next step, I would say, is we probably need to check for mulligans from the other player, because at that point, if the other player had some mulligan turns and they had to redraw their hand a couple times, you should be able to draw a card from your deck for each time they mulligan. So how are we going to do that? So one thing I will note, I've already set up a global variable for player 2 mulligans, even though the FSMs for player 2 haven't even been created yet, but I went ahead and made the variable. So I would say we're going to do this. So we need to check, and I'm just winging it here, so we'll kind of work through this. So what I know what we need to do is we need to check the int. We need to check an int value. So let's just take a look. Int. What do we find? We could probably do an int compare. Let's see what else is in there. Logic, int changed, int compare. That I think that's what we're gonna want to do. Let's try int compare because this actually might work out okay. Let's see. So we have the variables. So we have integer 1, integer 2. So let's do this. Let's go to our global variables. Check for player 2. Almost seems like we need a get int value. Let's try this. This is how it goes, like working in Playmaker. Sometimes you don't really know what you need to do. You just got to check. Actually might reverse. I'm going to reverse these just so it makes sense in my head. We're going to check our own mulligan values first. So if they're equal, let's just call it finished. So let's just say this value for both players is 0. Then let's just call it finished. Or we could name it something else here. We'll just call it equal mulligans. There we go. That could essentially mean like 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. All depends. Doesn't really matter, but we just know that they're equal. So let's go and delete. So less than We'll call this, so if player 1 has less than player 2 mulligans, wow, this is gonna, let's think, it's gonna be a little bit complicated. Is there like a get, let's see, get int, player preferences, get int, get FSM int. Maybe we don't make these, maybe we have to rethink it. Let's see. Let's put this in here for now. And actually, while we're at it, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the math section for the actions. And so we have float add, let's look at the int add, int clamp, int subtract, wrap, set int, random int, select random int. Not too much in here. It might actually be easier now I'm thinking about it. Let's do this instead. So let's change this. Instead of making it a global, it might actually be better just to call player 1 mulligan count. And then we'll copy this. Create. Let me go to my global variables. I'm going to go ahead and delete these two because we're not going to use them. It's also not like, another thing too, I'm kind of starting to realize it's not really good practice to use a lot of global variables anyways. We can, by using local variables, we can use like FSM get int and things like that. So that's not too big of a deal. What we will have to do under this player 2, we're going to go ahead and add another object. It'll be an empty object now. It'll be P2 startup manager, just like player 1, same thing. So in this player 2 startup manager, we're going to go ahead and add an FSM. We're going to call this the same thing, actually. Yeah, P2 startup manager. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and edit. And we're just going to go right in and add a variable. We're going to call it an int. There we go. Mulligan count, but we're going to call it P2. Mulligan count, just an int. No states or anything. We're just going to go ahead and add the variable right now. And if we go back to our player 1 startup manager, we have the variable in there right now because we just added it to the state. So there we go. And so let's do this a little bit different way. I don't really, this int compare, I like it, but we also need we need to know how many times we can draw a card from our deck depending on how many mulligans there were. So we'll go ahead and remove this action for now. And so get event int, that's not really what we need. So I'll just go ahead and remove that action. I thought we were going to need that. Let's go back to state machines, and we need to get FSM. So we're going to specify the game object. So we're going to get an int, and the way we're going to do that, we're going to specify the game object, which is the player 2 startup manager. There we go. And the FSM name, which is actually kind of similar to this one. It's player 2. That's a P2 startup manager. And the variable name is not that. mulligan. It's actually player 2 mulligan count. So there we go. We'll change that to P2. P2. We're going to store the value. New variable. P2. Actually, we'll just call it exactly the same. There we go. We'll just call it player 2 mulligan count. All right, and we don't have to check every frame because theoretically, when this is done, it all should be settled. Like the players are done. You know, we'll. And actually, I guess not. We might have to add like a state in here. Actually, now that I think about it, yeah, we are going to have to add a different state. So let's just go ahead and drop this in the finished. We'll add a finished here, and then we'll do this. Now that I'm thinking about it, we're probably going to need some type of other action just to send an event to, or even just to check a bool, just to let us know that the other player is done like drawing cards from their deck and looking for basics. Because I could see the scenario where like we get like, say we draw 7 cards, we get a basic unit right away, but our opponent is still working through their deck trying to find a basic, and we're over here because our process is done. We're still, we're looking for their number of mulligans, but they're still over there drawing cards, if that makes sense. So we'll probably have to add an action, or like a bool. Yeah, I mean, action, let's do it. We could just add it here too. So let's just add it. Let's add another variable. So we're going to make this one a bool, and we're going to call it done. We'll call it, see, player 1 done finding basic units. Okay. And we'll just go ahead and copy that. That'll be a bool. All right. So this is for player 1, and then we're going to need the exact same thing for player 2. So let's go player 2 startup manager. Same thing. We'll add a bool. Player 2. There we go. And then in this value, we can, we'll go ahead and make it true for now. But what'll happen, what we'll have it do is, of course, once they go through the entire process, then this will be false by default. And then once they go through the whole entire process and they find their basic units, then it'll go ahead and check this value as true. But for now, we'll leave it true. We may have to change that, but we'll come back to it later. So same thing here. So at this point in this state, we should probably update that value. So that's what we're going to do first. So let's go to search for bool, not bool. And then we're going to need something like a set bool. Yeah, set FSM bool. Use owner. That's fine. We could use owner. Call this test startup manager. I'll probably change that at some point. That's not what I want to do. Variable name. Set FSM bool. Where's my bool? P1 done finding basics. There we go. Get that state. Just call the variable here. We'll set the value to true. And so since we have this here, we need to, it's false by default. Actually should be okay. We'll just go ahead and, because it's false by default, should be fine. So there we go. We're going to set bool. Player 1 done finding basic units. That's kind of a lengthy title, but oh well. All right, so that's going to tell player number 2 that we're done. Like we're done drawing cards from our deck. we found basic units. All right. So on that note, we also probably should add another state here. Click there. Add another transition for finished. We need to get FSM bool. So we're going to specify the game object. We're going to do player 2 startup manager. The FSM name is, well, we'll drop the variable here first, so because we know the variable. So we'll put player 2, and I have it copied already. All right, and then we'll get the FSM name. It's going to be player 2 startup manager. All right, done finding, store the value. We're going to call it, that's not what I want to call it. None. We'll call it a new variable. I'll just copy this one. New variable, player 2, done finding basic units. There we go. So now that we have that, we're gonna check every frame, because at this point we need to know, like, we need to know if it's, you know, checked or not. And so now we need to do bool test. Bool variable. Yep. So player 1, player 2 is done finding basic units. If true, finished, then we'll connect it there. So if false, what will happen on these bool test actions, if you leave nothing, like, so let's say the bool is false and the player 2 is still working through their deck, the state will just sit, and it'll sit here in this state, and it'll monitor that variable every frame until it's checked, or, you know, nothing happens. It'll just sit there. So, and that's what we want it to do. So this state is going to, you know, let's call it, you know, check for P2 bool. It's gonna sit here and check for that bool variable until it finally gets checked, which is what we want it to do. Once it gets checked true, then we can go ahead and proceed. So, and then that is where, you know, we know, okay, we're ready to proceed. Now we can go ahead and count those mulligans. So we're getting the FSM here. We're getting the FSM int for mulligan count. And we don't need it every frame now because we know that they're done. So we're going to do that. And so now let's see, where do we go from here? Now that we have the int, get FSM int. And we're probably going to do something like, what is this? Yeah, that might not be. It's literally just going to subtract. What are some of these other ones? Int wrap, int clamp. No. Int add. So we're getting the int. So it's the mulligan count, variable name, store the value. I mean, I guess we do have to do an int compare. What is int? Test of the value, the integer change variable, send an event change, int compare. Okay, maybe we actually do need to do the int compare, because we're getting the value. If equal, then it's finished. If less than, if it's less than the player 1 or player 2 mulligan count should also be finished. If it's greater than, we're gonna probably need an event. Need to draw cards. And actually would probably want to ask the player if they want to draw cards or not, but I'll put that in later on. Okay. So what happens now? So if it's finished, we're just going to go to another state. So we're going to add another state. And if everything is all good and finished, then we'll move on. If not, then we need to come down here and we need to draw more cards. All right, so at this point, this is where I feel like we need to, if we know, I think we're going to need to subtract. So the int variable, so it's going to be the player 2. We know that the player 2 had, however many number of mulligans they had. And then we're going to have to subtract player 1 mulligan count. And so I'm trying to think, what's giving me a hard time is that I'm not seeing, it's not like giving us a value. It's just, it's interesting. So subtract the value to an, oh, well, I guess, I'm assuming this is the way it works. It's essentially going to change the int variable by subtracting. Okay, I think I get it. So if we just continue on, we just now need to draw cards out of the deck. So now that we are subtracting our number of mulligans as player 1 from the number of mulligans from player 2, that should give us some kind of value, either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. So let's go back to our whole deck thing. We don't want to shuffle our deck, so we need to do an array get next. So I'm probably going to copy this action here. Let's just go ahead and copy it because I know it's proven to work after all the hours of testing that I've done. I know that action works. All right. We're going to have to do a loop. We're going to need a finish loop. Why is this one throwing a code? It's kind of weird. What do the errors say? It's missing targets. Oh. There we go. Okay. I didn't realize that one was there. So, all right. So we're going to do an array get next, and we're going to start that, like, kind of that same loop that we do over here, where we have an array get next. We go to the child repository. We remove the, it's the exact same loop. So let's just do this. Let's just copy the state, paste that over here. Copy this state, paste that over there. There we go. Same thing. We'll even take the wait 3 seconds too. Why not? I don't like when cards just like magically appear on the field. I kind of like them to pop up after 0.3 seconds. Just makes it look a little bit better. And then of course eventually, once I get all this squared away, I will add animations and stuff and make it actually, add sound and animations and make it feel like a card game. All right, so there we go. We need to draw cards. And so the tricky part here is we have to, so let's see, we can't just start index. We have to, saving the result. I feel like there's going to be another action in here because we... These are always more complicated than they appear. Let's see. So, long story short, we need to figure out a way. We only need to run this array get next the number of times or number of mulligans that we got. So we did int subtract. Compare. No, we don't need that. It would almost be something like just go none. So we're not going to use this loop. This array get next loop. What it'll do is it'll just run through the entire array, and you don't want it to do that. And actually, now that I think about it, probably should add another state specifically for this int subtract. So we'll just go ahead and copy the action. Add it to this state here, add transition finished, need to draw a card, so we'll go here and then we'll go here to the loop. There we go. And then we'll just remove this, state 2. This is going to be our continuation, so we'll just plug that in once we're done. And it could end up being different from this. So array get next. What if I don't like using these loop actions, because I've had a lot of issues with them, but yeah, this might be the way. So P2 mulligan count. So that's going to be the loop event. And then finished. There we go. Okay. So I don't know. I think this is gonna work. I feel maybe 60% confident. So let's test it out. Let's see. All right. So let's take a look. So we got our number of loops here based off the P2 mulligan count. We're subtracting the number of mulligans from P2, whatever we have as mulligans. Okay, so I'm almost like afraid to hit play. Let's see. Okay, I know what we got to do. I almost forgot. So let's go to player to startup manager, go to the variables, go to the mulligan count. And so we're going to set a mulligan value here. Let's say 2. Set it to 2. All right. And then let's go back to startup manager. So we should draw 7 cards. When we find our basic, we'll move on. We will see. So we'll go ahead, we're going to set our FSM value saying that we're done. We found our cards. We're going to check player 2 bull, which is already checked true. So it's going to click past here. It's going to go to state number 8. So we're going to check FSM int. So we're going to check that int value for how many mulligans, which we just set to 2. We're going to do an int compare. So depending on how many mulligans we have, we may draw 2 cards, we might draw 1, or we might draw 0. Just depends on how many mulligans we actually run through. So let's do that. Let's click play. Moment of truth. And no mulligans. And no cards either. What the heck happened? So So we just went to state 8, state 2. So state 8 did not do anything. P2. So where was... Did we count? So P1 mulligan count, add 1. So we had 0. But we know... Yeah, we know it never went through this process. It just went straight to... So we checked the bool, did the bool test, so that worked. So it's something in here. Our int compare... Oh, I get it. Okay. So it was less than. Actually, I had it backwards. Okay. Gosh, I messed that up. So we actually need to flip that around. So because it said less than, well, of course, 0 mulligans was less than 2 mulligans from player 2. So it just went to finished. So I had that reversed. So now let's try it again. Welcome to Unity and Playmaker. This is how it goes. All right, and no mulligans, and wow, I just kept running forever. Okay, and we just drew every card in the deck. So what the heck happened? Jeez. Okay, so we drew every card in the deck. So it basically just looped through. Oh, jeez. Yeah, easy. It's so easy to mess these things up. I initiated the loop with the array get next. Let's try it again. Goodness, there's so many things that you have to look out for. And we should have no mulligans. And we drew, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. We drew 9 cards. Mission accomplished. Yeah, it worked. So we had no mulligans because our NHA light infantry card registered as our basic unit on the first draw. So that's good news. And it looks like it did in fact cycle through and it drew 2 more cards for us. So that's good. And so that's pretty comforting knowing that this loop using the P2 mulligan count actually does work. So let's try it again. Let's see if we actually get a mulligan this time on our side. So no mulligans this time. So probably, yeah, we just went ahead and drew some more cards. So 11 cards in the deck. That is accurate. 11 cards in the deck, 9 in the hand. If we check here on our hierarchy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 cards in the hand. And then in the repository, we should have 11 cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Perfect. Everything is looking good so far. Other than the minor mishaps I made for myself. Let's try it again. Let's see if we get any more. No mulligans. Yep. And we just went ahead and we drew 9 cards. Yep, 9. Let's try again. We're having really good pull luck right now. We keep pulling the NHA light infantry. It's literally the one card that has the bull value for is basic. Okay, there's our first mulligan. Redraw. Perfect. It worked. We have 8 cards in hand. Okay, so let's recap that. So our first draw of 7 cards, we drew a mulligan. So we had no basics. So we went through the process, redrew another, counted the mulligan for us, redrew another 7 cards, got a basic unit, proceeded through the process. It looked like the subtract action actually did work. subtracted our 1 mulligan from the player two's 2 mulligans to give us 1 card draw. So we actually have 8 cards in the hand, which is exactly what we needed. So mission accomplished. We did it. You could see even something that seems so simple like that is really not. Like there's a lot. There's just a lot. I thought when I turned this video on, I was like, oh, I'm gonna knock this out real quick, and I think it's been, I don't know, 25 minutes or something. It's never that easy, but we did it. So we figured out the mulligan thing. So now we're ready to move on. Our mulligan setup is done. So I think I'm gonna call it on this video. I'm gonna take the small victory here and call it a day for this. And actually, let's just run it through one more time. But I'm pretty happy with this. I think I will be back very, very soon. So yeah, no mulligans here. 9 cards, perfect. So I'll be back very soon. I'll do for devlog 4. We'll continue on. I think the next step in the process, we need to add the 6 cards. So once this is done and you're done drawing your cards after mulligans, we need to draw cards for prizes. That's the very next step. So devlog 4, we're working on prize cards. Promise. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tagging along. It's been a journey today, but we figured out the mulligans, counting, and all that kind of stuff. If you enjoy this kind of video, if you're learning anything from it, like I'm learning from just working through this. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next devlog. Oh, and somewhere up on the screen, the next video for the next devlog is going to pop up. So go ahead and click that. Thanks.